Look, I wasn't planning on making this video, I really wasn't, and I know that's something YouTubers love to say. They love to go, oh, I didn't want to make this video, but I just had no other choice, I just had to get those views. But I swear to God, to quote Jim Cornette, if I'm lying, I'm flying, and my feet have not left the ground, I was not planning on making this. I even typed out that classic community post review I make when I don't plan on covering an episode. The plan was to skip it, but given the sheer quantity of stupidity and bad faith arguments circling online about the first episode of One Punch Man Season 3, I had to talk about it. As a content creator who hyperfixates on the technical aspect of anime production, I couldn't just stay silent when the casual fans were being this unfair to an already compromised production. And as such, here's a quick video about both the first episode of One Punch Man, the good and the bad, and the fan reception to it. Make sure to subscribe, blah 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 something something, enter clever segue here, just subscribe. Also blah blah blah, you can become a member of this channel, exclusive videos, custom badges, shoutouts and more, just go down there and press the join button. So before we talk about the godforsaken One Punch Man fanbase and their godforsaken opinions, let's talk about the actual episode. Was it bad? Was it poorly animated? No and no. Well, it wasn't exactly animated to begin with, but you get the idea. The episode was fine, it was the most fine episode ever, it was alright. Let's start with the positives. The episode had incredibly strong artwork. A vast majority of the shots looked top-notch with large amounts of line work, thick stylish outlines and strong proportions. I was genuinely caught off guard by how consistently high level the drawings were throughout the episode. The level of artwork and AD corrections throughout the entire thing was leagues above season 2 from what I can remember. Here's the thing, if you are putting out an episode with next to no movement in it, the least you can do is ensure that the drawings themselves looked great, and that's exactly what this episode did. Besides that, the art direction was quite good. Some of the establishing shots looked very eye-catching. In fact, funny enough, the only bad-looking background in this episode was the one they lifted from season 1. Art director Sakura Murakami did an incredible job. Also, the compositing was solid. Of course, those awful metal textures were gone, but even outside of that, the shots simply looked more appealing than season 2. Director of photography Yuki Hirose understood the assignment. And that's it for the positives. Sadly, let's now talk about the bad and the ugly. Animation, also known as movement, this episode didn't have any. Besides a tiny handful of shots with basic minimal motion and that one shot but surprisingly well animated cut of Fubuki, the episode was entirely static, still frames galore. A couple of observations that are equal parts funny and depressing. The one time this episode tried to move, it completely collapsed. These shots of Garo walking just straight up fell apart. I'm sure the complicated shot compositions didn't help. I saw some people online saying, oh, Garo has broken bones, that's why he's walking funny. Well, I appreciate the optimism, but no, it's not bones that are broken here, it's anatomy and maybe a few laws of physics. These are just janky, poorly executed shots. The other funny yet depressing observation was the fact that in the manga, this guy slices up a bunch of monsters and then gets his plate grabbed by the dominatrix lady, which sounded quite wrong now that I've said it out loud. Anyway, a bit of action, right? A bit of movement. If you're wondering why you don't remember that from the episode, it's because they just straight up skipped it. A fact that's particularly funny because the rest of the episode was about as manga faithful as humanly possible. They adapted every single thing except for the part that required actual animation, which I think speaks volumes about what this production is like behind the scenes. The lack of animation, however, wasn't that big of a deal to me. I expected it, and it didn't exactly hamper my enjoyment of the episode. What did bother me, however, was the direction and storyboards, or the lack thereof. The episode was storyboarded by series director Shinpei Nagai, with 3 additional storyboard artists credited. Not sure what happened there, and I wasn't impressed. This episode was painfully one-to-one with the manga, which is just, it's such an incredibly boring way of adapting something. I know a lot of shows do this, but in this particular instance, I could feel the lack of visual input made by the anime team. Despite being an anime-only viewer, it felt like a boring one-to-one panel recreation fest. My spidey senses for that sort of thing were tingling, and upon going back and comparing it to the manga, I was proven right. Look, I know casual fans like it when their adaptations are creatively bankrupt and simply lift manga panels, but I hate that shit. To quote myself, there's nothing more boring than an anime that uses the manga as a storyboard. Nearly every single shot in this episode was one-to-one with the manga. In fact, the manga somehow had more unique compositions than the anime, which is bizarre. I think I know why they did that. Mangaka Yusuke Murata is an incredible artist, and I'm sure his panels served as valuable reference for the animators. That's probably one of the reasons why the drawings in this episode were so strong. I get that, but come on, just do something different for f***'s sake. Strict panel recreations, besides being boring as fuck, have their downsides. Some things work in manga format but look jarring when adapted as is. For example, Saitama being in regular clothes in one shot and immediately being fully costumed in the next might look fine in manga form given the medium's trademark abruptness, but when adapted as is into a medium that is expected to fill in the gaps between small time jumps, it looks quite jarring. It looks like someone edited a few shots out of the episode. This manga faithfulness is also the reason why the pacing in this episode felt a bit wonky. Manga pacing simply does not work in anime form. And that was the episode. It was fine, but not one without its issues. Let's now talk about the fans. Because good fucking god, what in the ever-loving f*** is wrong with all of you? Are you fucking stupid? Fans of this show, fans are acting like this was the second coming of fucking Exam. All of a sudden, the lack of character acting is this major issue that everyone cares about. Since when did 90% of you lot start giving a fuck about character acting? You wouldn't notice subtle character acting if it slapped you in the face. I know that's not exactly me addressing the issue. I believe the technical term for it is ad hominem. It's that thing where you attack the person making an argument instead of the argument itself, but come on. The same people who look at a manga accurate still frame and call it peak are now all of a sudden matured character acting enjoyers. Out of fucking nowhere, which is particularly ironic because these are the same people who would call well animated character acting CGI. Look, I get that the static nature of this episode was a bit more noticeable than your typical popular anime, but please ask yourselves this, are you really that upset? To the manga readers watching, did you read the source and go, I can't wait to see how they animate Garo fucking walking down the hallway, or I can't wait to see how they handle Saitama going out to buy spring onions or whatever? Does that really matter that much to you, or are you upset simply because you saw someone else be upset and someone else got upset because they saw you, and so on until an echo chamber was formed? Here's the thing, I watch a lot of shows, upwards of 20 every season, and most productions would kill to have level of drawings this high. In no universe is this a bad looking episode. You are demented if you think that. I saw people online comparing it to Frieren and My Dress Up Darling, and all I can say is no. Comparing it to Frieren is basically the same thing as comparing it to One Punch Man Season 1, since both shows boast the same production line at Madhouse and the same animation producer Yuichiro Fukushi, and comparing it to My Dress Up Darling, a show with production values several times higher and an identity centered around character acting, is beyond unreasonable. In no universe was One Punch Man Season 3 going to look that good, and the sooner you come to terms with that fact, the better. Oh, but we waited 6 years, take that up with the production committee. The show wasn't in production for 6 years, it wasn't even in production when it got announced. Staff members can't just start working on a show at their own discretion. A tangible production period needs to be assigned. And set period for this show was terrible. I have reasons to believe production started in the month of March this year. Yes, episode 1 didn't move much, but that wasn't the staff being lazy. It's not like they had the option to animate more but chose not to, it's just them making the best out of a bad situation. Also, if you're interested in my reasons behind that March production window, check out my previous video about the show. The team simply did not have enough time and resources. To receive an adaptation comparable to Frieren, you need conditions that Frieren got, aka a schedule that, while not being healthy whatsoever, was significantly better than One Punch Man, and producers influential and well connected enough to attract industry-leading talent. One Punch Man wasn't treated like that internally, it was treated like just another action show, and normally that means it will look like just another action show, but thanks to the tireless efforts made by the team, I'm sure it'll look better, at least marginally so. Expecting anything more and blaming the staff for not getting it isn't just you being unreasonable, it's you being a scumbag. And I know what you're thinking, One Punch Man is a commercial juggernaut, it's one of the most popular IPs ever, we deserve better production conditions. Well, yes, every production ever deserves better conditions, but about that popularity thing, no one gives a f***. That's like the one good thing about the modern anime industry, it's still passion driven, fundamentally speaking. An IP being popular doesn't mean industry leading talent will flock to it, thank God. Do you know why shows like Takopi and Frieren looked so good despite the fact that neither title can touch One Punch Man in terms of global popularity? Because those projects were greenlit by passionate upper managements. Takopi producer Kotaro Sudo was very particular about the conditions and staff the series had, and Frieren producer Shoichiro Taguchi was working on a pitch for an anime adaptation all the way back in 2020, back when only a single chapter of the manga was out. That's how producers make memorable shows, by assisting the staff instead of leaving them stranded in the middle of the road. good. The One Punch Man team was put in a disadvantageous situation by the upper management, be it Bandai and/or jcstaff execs, and unfortunately they also have to face the brunt of fans' disappointment online since they are the most easily accessible names and faces. It's really unfortunate. I had predicted both the show's quality and the fan reception to it a while back, and sadly it looks like I was spot on. Expecting any empathy or knowledge from anime fans is, ironically enough, much like expecting dress-up darling tier character acting from One Punch Man Season 3. It's just not going to happen. Here's the thing, no one is asking you to shut up and accept a product you don't think is good enough. I don't do that and neither should you. I called out Hell's Paradise, I called out parts of Jujutsu Kaisen, I called out Bleach, the list goes on, but there's a way to go about it. If you are going to comment on animation quality, 1. Please do so in constructive fashion, and 2. Please educate yourselves a bit on the topic. You don't have to, but it would be very nice of you if you did. And that's it, I guess. I'm pretty sure this video won't accomplish much. The ones that had made up their minds will continue to be obnoxious and the ones that understand what things were like behind the scenes weren't being obnoxious to begin with. But hey, at least I got all of this off my chest. That's about it. A special thanks to Nude03, Pawel, Amir and the Gallus90 for becoming tier 3 members, and until next time.